On social media platforms today, quality content often goes unnoticed. On Den, users get paid for the creation, evaluation, and curation of quality content. Content creators are rewarded based upon the engagement and reach of their post or comment. Content evaluators are rewarded based upon the speed and results of their predictions about which content will trend or go viral. Community owners are rewarded based on engagement within their community. On Den, quality content pays.
All right, welcome everyone to Super Happy Dragon Lucky episode 0x42. It's the 67th episode. Last week, a bunch of interviews came out that you should know about and check out. First up, and we'll get through some other updates here too before our guests come on. But Windy O was really good. It was a very short interview, so unlike some of my ramblings elsewhere, very short, very simple, nice interview. We also had Future of Work, which was actually really interesting, especially for me because it was much less technical. It was at a much higher level, more about meaning and philosophy. So it was actually pretty cool. Tim's a good guy. Then also, two really great interviews were Girl Gone Crypto, who probably had the best questions I've ever been asked, and the Bully Esquire podcast. I think it's probably his second or third podcast, and we've been a longtime fan of Bully here at Dragonchain, and he's taken a lot of trolling even during the bear market because of his support for us early on. So anyway, it was a really good interview. Got into a lot of the history and also what's coming. So go out and watch those. Really good stuff. We actually got a lot of questions answered that no one has ever asked us in those interviews. So pretty good stuff. Next up, we have the Eternal Archive team is building has something out there for a WordPress plugin to archive posts and edits on any WordPress site. And some of these things are out there, but frankly, we think we know that we have more power behind something archived on Dragonchain, which is what Eternal uses, obviously, because we're combining the hash power of Ethereum and Bitcoin, and Ethereum Classic, and whatever else we're interchaining at the time. So basically, people can install this free plugin, and right now, I think the team's looking for feedback and looking to which features to build next, especially for premium use. So some pretty cool stuff. Contact Tenacious Dragon on Twitter if you want to test it out, and stay tuned for more updates. Okay, so now we'll go into Den updates, right? So last week, Den released the new Matter contract on Ethereum, and withdraw functionality went live on Den. So it's a beautiful thing because now Matter is more meaningful, more real. We've been in beta for a year, and during that time, people have been building Matter through the same algorithms that they are now, but they've not been able to withdraw it until now. And so this is the first step of many that are coming. There is also Matter liquidity on Uniswap that Den provided. Den basically took the majority, almost all of its Matter, to put that liquidity there, and others have provided liquidity as well. So it's a really good thing. The tokenomics should be talked about. There are only 293,000 Matter in circulation right now, and that's basically as a result of having run for 293 days. There are 1,000 Matter minted and mined per day, and that'll go on for approximately 1,357 years. So the Matter contract keys are going to be burned when we know everything is running smooth, everything's going along. We had to add some pretty interesting elements to the contract for the way that we mine the token, and the Matter liquidity that DIN provided on Uniswap will also be locked is locked for 1 year already. I can't remember what the date was. It would have been last week sometime when it started, and meaning that the rug pull can't happen from DIN. That the liquidity's there, everything's good, and to inspire some confidence, it's just locked up. So we are asking people as they are able to provide liquidity to Uniswap, and later there will be multiple ways we believe that it will be rewarded in DeFi, in the DeFi world, that you'll be able to provide liquidity for Matter and be able to farm lore, as an example. But there are a couple of other things that we're looking at, even for the governance, that would be pretty effective in bringing people into the community and helping the token side independent of DIN. So it'll be an interesting thing, be pretty cool. It's definitely fun, it's definitely exciting. We also released a new DIN homepage, so new users coming to din.social can actually see the videos that explain the system, actually read about the roles, see some examples of some layers, and also learn more about the tokens. At least it's kind of a high-level introduction into how the whole system works, and there will be links to all the DeFi components and activities. Right now, as you can see on Matter, there's a link to all of the token, all the important things about the token, the lock itself, the Uniswap, the contract itself, and then the general information. So all that's there. There's a lot going on. If anybody has any questions or sees anything that we're missing that they would like to know about, do let us know. We'll add it. We'll let you know right away, and we'll add it. We also have two new token logos. If you can see here, the beautiful, beautiful logos. Matter being Matter, Energy being lightning bolt, Lore being layer ownership rights. It's a document, right? And then Lot being a planted flag. It's it's the document planted in the ground. I own this, right? The Lot's NFT. So it's a beautiful thing. These are amazing, right? So let's see here. That's all. The DIN. No, wait, we have one more. More updates. Mostly Lore and Lot information and DeFi coming very soon. We're basically finalizing some of the pieces in the contracts and how they interact with the system for Lore and Lot. We have a lot written already. We have a lot done, but there are some few final pieces remaining, and we'll launch the whole thing, and you guys will get to really play with it. So, and by the way, this is DIN. For anybody that doesn't know, DIN was a product that Dragonchain created for a number of reasons. Crypto needs this, first of all, but I think the world needs this in the end as well. And we've spun it off, so it is its own entity. So, I tend to give updates because I'm heavily involved, but it is not Dragonchain, but the whole thing runs on top of Dragonchain, on DragonNet and everything else. So everything's on chain, everything's beautiful. So next up we have Number Go Up, sponsored by our friends at FOMO Hunt. So this week we're going to do dragons, so last week Number Go Up, and the analyst forecast is Number Go Up. So go check out FOMO Hunt and check out dragons, and I think they have some good, all the links there and everything as well. So we're going to be right back with our guests, Franklin, Fitch, and Real Orrin.
Roles of a denizen. A content creator is a user that creates posts and is rewarded based on the quality of their content. A content evaluator is a user that helps assess the quality of content and enforces community standards. The evaluator is effectively taking part in a marketplace to curate content and is rewarded for early evaluation. A content consumer is a user that wishes to find and consume the most valuable content in a given subject area or within a community. A lair owner is a person holding tokenized ownership of all or part of a community lair. Owners are rewarded with a portion of all mining activity happening within their lair. Owners are incentivized to build the best community of content creators and evaluators.
All right, we are back with Orrin and Franklin. Orrin is our friend on the show and our favorite cyborg from the future. In fact, how's it going, Orrin? And introduce yourself.
Hello, we are Orrin, a collective conscious and cyborg, sent by a higher civilization to warn humans of the incoming apocalypse. Thank you for having us, Joe. Hello, Franklin.
Hello.
Franklin is the head of marketing at Block Party, and we've known him for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Follow him on Twitter. Introduce yourself. How's it going?
Good. What's up, Joe? Been a big fan of you guys for a while. Love what you guys do at Dragonchain, building products that people use, right? And known each other for a while. My Twitter is interesting in various ways. If you follow me there, if you don't, you should check it out. But, as you said, I run marketing, and we've added a new little piece to my title, and curation, which I think we'll get into the significance of that a little bit later. But that's what I do at Block Party, and it's a ton of fun. So I'm sure we'll be talking about NFTs and all that good stuff. Right on.
Okay, so we're going to go through number of news and articles and things like that. Feel free, I'll ask some questions, but feel free to throw in where you have an opinion, especially because there's a lot going on in the world. This is a very interesting time right now, right? And that's why I'm very interested in Orrin, knowing, try to pull as much as I can out of him about what's coming, right? So first up, people have lost trust in the democratic process, right? And elections themselves. So blockchain can solve this. We think it can solve it today. Why has this not been implemented yet? And will the next major election be conducted on the chain in any capacity? Franklin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, look, I will begin by saying my views are not representative of Block Party, because I'm sure I'll say things that are, maybe a little bit interesting on this show. But I think we're not using the blockchain because there's no desire to have a transparent democracy in America, either among those in power or even necessarily among the common person. I think the common person, we were talking a little bit before the show about the desire for convenience seems to be the overriding factor in user experience from my research. Background in psychology, right? I have a master's in consumer psych, and whenever I've studied user experience, I always find that convenience tends to be top of the stack. We like low effort, low impact things as human beings. So do we really want to have a transparent election, or do we just want to believe the process works the way that we think it works, right? So that's one kind of set of questions. The other set of questions would be, do those in power want a transparent electoral process truly? I think if they did, a lot of other things would have been changed already, right? About the way the current system works. Certain aspects of the electoral college, right? Certain aspects of how the actual voting takes place at a polling station. The fact that we're even still using physical ballots is kind of mind-boggling to me. We live in the modern world, and we're still using paper to vote in person. You look at during a pandemic how complicated that was, right? So I think there's a lot of different things that point me in the direction of nobody wants this, or people like us want it because we work in cryptocurrency, right? But I wonder how broad, even amongst common people, the desire for a more transparent process is. And I more importantly wonder whether people in power would even let it take place. So that's my answer.
Yes. Okay. All right. So, Orrin, I mean, without changing history, right? So, mostly, why are we not doing this already?
From politics to medicine to finance, we see that blockchain has a lot of useful capabilities that can help us with transparency, and a lot of those in power still do not want to adopt it for their own personal reasons, usually for interest in those people who they represent. And that is what is unfortunate about this. There's a new announcement that PayPal will be integrating cryptocurrencies, and that news is new now, but we can assume that PayPal has been stocking up investments in Bitcoin and Ethereum for the past year. So it's funny how a lot of these different industries not only dismiss cryptocurrencies, but are secretly hoarding. So it is only a matter of time before things coalesce and we can have a public adoption of cryptocurrencies in such fields.
Yes. Central banks do that too. I mean, there's some pretty good evidence that some central banks have hoarded and then announce and then refute and then announce and then refute. You can look at history and see
it's the way traders, it's the way traders trade, right? You fill before shill is the line, right? So what is the rationale to believe anyone else is doing anything different?
Yes. And it needs to be stated that the whole purpose of that document that Blake has up in front of us right here is that the three big pieces, and to your point, Franklin, I think normal people want transparency. Yes, they want convenience. There is some level of they won't take certain cost for that transparency. But in certain times like now, these are the times that you can actually make things happen. And I definitely agree with Orrin's point that the powers that be do not want it, and there are obvious reasons that they do not want it. And I say the power, not all of them, obviously, but we were in as a company in a trade organization meeting with government officials in the state of Washington. Right, there are notable, interesting flaws with our voting system. It's all by mail. The signatures are not on the ballot; they're on the envelope. I don't even know if that's legal, right? Can I sign a document and then say, oh, it's a legal contract with the paper that's inside? No, you can't really sign an envelope.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
It's bizarre. And you know why? It's because they don't actually want the traceability. They will track you. You can put in your code online and say, yes, your vote made it all the way to the end point.
Right.
Well, was it counted? How was it counted? Right. And there are reasons they can't, because they don't have the tech. You could say, if they were being honest, they don't have the tech to do it, because it's, how do you maintain an independent and what do I say, a secret ballot, right? That if I don't want you to know how I voted, but I want to be able to see my vote on the chain and know that it was actually counted the way that I voted, right? That's the main point. And with blockchain, and in particular with decentralized identity and blockchain, we can absolutely already do it. And so we bring this up, and it wasn't just me. I mean, I brought it up, but then there were 3 or 4 other people from different blockchains or different projects that all chimed in. It's like, yeah, that's actually something that's doable today. It's something that would be an amazing use case. If they're really wanting to know, how can government use blockchain? It was like, well, guys, come on. This was probably in it was a couple of months ago, maybe. It was probably too late to do it this election. Now, I say that we could have done it. Dragonchain could have done it, but obviously with politics, that would be really rough. But it was totally thrown. It was like, nope, there's no way. It's just, you don't understand how complex this is. And I know the political complexity.
I'm sure they believe that, right? I'm sure they believe that.
Well, I think they also know you don't understand how much money is in ready to be spent against this, right? Is the main thing. So. Yeah, they don't want transparency. So, and it's who knows? What's happening now could lead to that. I think everybody on all sides would agree that we really need a way to know that my vote was actually counted and that every other vote was actually eligible, and that anyone in the world can take part in the counting. I could go to my PC myself, pull the data, and say, "Yep, that person won." Right? That's what I want. Because then all of a sudden we're all looking at the same data, and it all has the same.
Joe, quick question for you. Before we move on to anything else. So there has been some amongst crypto people, even some caveats about using blockchain systems for voting thrown out there. Now, look, admittedly, I think you guys would have a really good shot at pulling it off because you guys are great at building enterprise level scalable systems. But there some concerns would be like if the blockchain was compromised, everyone's vote would be known, right? So I can already imagine at a conceptual level what some solutions for that might be, but I would love to get that in your own words. Like, what would be the ways that you make sure the integrity of the system is preserved?
Well, on the actual, like say 51% attacks, things like that, we use Ethereum and Bitcoin to basically counter that. There would be hundreds of millions of dollars applied, right? And the fact that it's hybrid means you can have some level of, where we don't expose, a system can legitimately not expose any of the source data until after the election is over. So people could vote all the way up to the particular time, and then after a certain amount of hash power is applied, now the whole thing can be released and everybody can look back and see, first of all, there's, let's say there's a couple of $1 billion worth of hash power applied to this entire vote. Can I trust that or not? Depends. Would China pay $1 billion to, maybe. So now I can look and see were there any chain forks on all the big chains wrapping that time. So the compromise side, on the regular side of compromise can be handled. Now, the decentralized identity part's very important. We probably don't have time to go into all of that, but all that means is nobody can even know that this is my vote unless I explicitly expose this is my public key, that is my vote, right? Which some people might do. It's atypical, but it's doable. But the main point then is that you yourself can go in and find your vote in the rolls and see that yes, I really did vote this way. Yeah. There's even the potential that if you want the use case where I can change my vote up to the last minute, you can do it because the system will be able to see that I'm replacing this single vote, which won't change. People can see that this person switched their vote 3 times. If you want, you can do that. For exposure, I don't know. I think it's funny whenever you bring a new system in, and this is the case anywhere, that if there is a legacy system in place, which there usually is, you wouldn't believe how much politics, and it's not even something like voting. It's like here's a system that's been around for 15 years that does a specific thing in the company, and if people say, well, here's a better way or here's something we can add to it, you wouldn't believe the amount of politics are railed against change.
Oh, I've been there, yeah. I've seen it firsthand.
So you can imagine this is a more of a global thing where it's a system that affects everybody, and is so horrendously applied right now. And in fact, there's a lot of people believe, and I'm one of them, that most of the features that have been added, especially in the past few years, are features to compromise the system. There's so many holes right now, and a lot of them are coming to light. Hopefully a lot of them will come to light now. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, there are a lot of maximalists too. I've gotten flack before, even back in 2016. I was like, you can't use it. It's not for that. And everybody's thinking, oh, this is a currency. Why would you vote with a currency? And it's like, this isn't a currency, you dumbass. So that's the whole thing. It's like maximalists just need to step back and relax. Maybe there's Bitcoin's beautiful. Bitcoin is amazing. Ethereum is beautiful, right? But there are so many other applications, and even Satoshi said that. But maximalists don't even like Satoshi anymore. So
people will be closed-minded, inevitably.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like if it's a number go up thing, fine, live with it. Have your number, see the green candles. That's what you live for. That's all fine. That's all good. It's positive, but that's not what it's all about. That's not the reason that we're fucking here. That's not the reason that this is not world changing because we built a new way to have assets on an exchange so people could speculate. That's a good thing.
Back to the individual.
Yes, that is what this is about. Individual liberty. It's individual liberty encapsulated in software. That is the beauty of what this industry is. And any way you can apply that, and there are going to be some ways that I do not understand when I first see them, and I might think, what is that? Is that stupid? So I understand some level of that, but you have to think about what is possible with software, and then you're adding the financial component and the liberty component to it. It's mind melting and world changing. So that's why I'm here. So I I cursed a little bit there. Next up, veteran investor Bill Miller says that every major investment bank will hold Bitcoin or something like it. Probably before they announce it, definitely, right? So Orrin, do you think this is true, or how much do you think it'll how diverse will those holdings be? Will they solely be Bitcoin, or will they open up to even Ethereum and even alts later? Especially
initially, it will probably remain to Bitcoin and Ethereum for the two largest market caps right now in cryptocurrencies. But as people get more familiar with altcoins and ERC20 tokens, they'll probably have a wider portfolio spread. And he says banks will own. We can change that to currently own.
Yes, very true. And
Yeah,
you have a stable too, right? What do you think, Franklin?
So there's been a number of names thrown out recently. I mean, this Druckenmiller, there was others before this, right? We have Michael Saylor from MicroStrategy. There's been a number of these kind of big, highly touted investors in the last 6 months, even, right? Like quite a narrow time frame that have come out with bullish theses. To our previous point, I'm sure they were stacking up before they said that, right? But I think it's true, right? I think it's inevitably true. I think you have a really interesting way to diversify, if you are an institution with Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is inevitable, right? I don't think you can stop the progress of Bitcoin now. Probably early on in its history, there was many things you could have done to stop it. In the last year, even, I've just said, look, it's too far now. You're not going to shut it down. I wonder even if the effort to shut it down would almost propel it further, because now you're seeing, in the example of the United States sanctions against Iran is just like, well, fuck you. We're going to use Bitcoin. We're going to mine Bitcoin and not be relying on the dollar. So regardless of your opinion on the politics of that matter, you have to kind of appreciate the significance of that moment, right? The ability for national sovereignty to not be manipulated by someone else's currency, right? And the ability to have freedom. And again, Iran is not really a beacon of freedom, but you get my point, right? That they are able to say, no, we're not going to go the way that you tell us to go because we have Bitcoin. So it's been progressing as a kind of stable and valid store of value, means of transaction in nations where there is pressure from the outside. And I think that really shows that this is here to stay, in terms of its use case and its validity as a store of value, and means of transaction. And so I think players around the world look at that and they say, okay, this is not going anywhere. And moneyed interests are also looking at the supply shortages that are kind of coming to fruition now, and I think are inevitably going to play out over the coming years. And they're saying we need to get a load of this. We need to diversify into it.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if they'll also. I'm surprised that more of them haven't thought to create their own stable coins as well, because that would be.
I think they will.
Yeah.
China's digital currency, right, is not a true stable coin, but it's similar, right? Yeah. And I've heard talk of some European banks starting to explore stable coins. So
because yeah, it would be closer to what they used to do in the old days, especially before central banks as well. And the other side of it is, and I always still think that if Bitcoin still had its currency capability as a major focus, as a feature, that it would be worth a lot more, right? So
Maybe.
and I do think it was attacked early for that reason, but it's interesting because they they're already on the move. They're already having to eat crow, a lot of them, and and actually pick this up. And it's not going to stop there. It's going to keep moving. And it's interesting because at some point they'll realize, oh, we could do this and this. I mean, there were so many massive opportunities for the first banks to, which is obvious even now, this late, that for benefit, for their customers, obviously, but even for their business and their holdings. Now, you mentioned Iran. I used to use, it's interesting, I've not for a while, but I used to use an example of, let's say you have an artist in Iran and they're not able to do business with the West, right? But they're an artist, right? They're an individual. Why? Because of their geographic location. Should they, and it's funny because Bitcoin, in fact, it would have been in probably 2011. I actually lobbied, I went with a lobbyist to go and talk, because he asked, hey, any small businesses out there? And, he was a lobbyist setting up a new firm, and I was like, hey, I want to go talk about crypto, right? And so I went in to a couple of the senators and congressmen, the senators in particular, who had actually called to ban Bitcoin. They've been paid under the table by some banks, and you can look that up in history. And that was my main point. Look, you can open markets for Americans, right? So basically, you represent Americans. We have a business here. There are people in those countries that can't do business with us, but this opens it up. This opens up for people who don't have who are unbanked, everything else. But theoretically, I mean, you guys, even Block Party could go find some Iranian artists and potentially let them.
Look, I mean, I had a discussion with some other podcasters, kind of streamers yesterday about this very thing, which is that you increase global freedom and global equity when you allow people from any place at any time to sell their products, right? Now, you get into the case of like a North Korea, and maybe there's some concerns there, but at the end of the day, the North Korean people aren't evil, right? The regime is evil. So what's the problem with a North Korean person who is struggling to put food on the table, being able to make a little money by selling a product and receiving a free payment method? Right. And there's a lot of different points you could make related to that, but I think the general point is universally agreed upon. Like, this is a good thing for freedom. It's a good thing for individual equity. It disrupts systems. Now, I think you have kind of like, not to get too philosophical, but like a Hegelian dialectic forming, where you've got the thesis of crypto, which is aggressively decentralized and freedom oriented, and then you have the opposite being like banks and nations, right? And they're going to meet in the middle. And so the final point I would make on this headline is, will they buy Bitcoin? Absolutely. And to your example, they're not going to make money from fees or things like that, but they'll make money by holding the underlying, right? So invest in Bitcoin and invest in open systems, and you're able to profit off of that. But as far as the technology that I think is implied with the something like it phrase in this headline, it's going to be some hybrid of the inherent centralization of a central bank and the inherent decentralization of Bitcoin.
Yep. Okay, and speaking of globalism and globalists, Ripple CEO rejects Coinbase's apolitical culture, says that Silicon Valley has an obligation to society. I don't know which obligation to society Silicon Valley has. I mean, I wouldn't say that they are handling it even.
It's a one-sided. I mean, a one-sided obligation to society is what they've put forward thus far. Yeah. So I think that take is so biased. I don't even know where to begin. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, if he's saying they should be. I don't know. They're giving back, all those things. What do you think, Orrin? Is this something that should come in? I mean, there are some cases I could understand it, because some of the culture around some of the platforms, their obligation to society, in my opinion, would be transparency and or allowing people to communicate with each other, right? That's really what they should be for. But I don't know what particular Ripple wants out of them. But what do you think, Orrin?
Well, of course, Coinbase has first mover advantage. And so, of course, there's going to be some bias with their team because they're going to have preference. And Coinbase has a certain standard to uphold, being one of the first SEC regulated trading platforms. And so, of course, Ripple and other coins are going to have their opinions on Coinbase's culture. But at the end of the day, this is just business.
Very true.
That's the best way to say it. It's just business. Look, at the end of the day, I fundamentally reject the idea that businesses need to be inherently political entities in any way. I mean, obviously there's lobbying, right? There's a lot of things that are pushing for their interests, but I don't, outside of like charitable work or kind of getting out in the community as a business together, peer to peer, right? Like you take your team and you go out and you do charitable work together, not only as a team building exercise, but as a community building exercise, but besides that, like this idea that corporations need to go on Twitter and take a public stance on political issues is bizarre to me. I don't know when that became like the thing to do. I find it extremely disingenuous. I think it's so phony that it almost is a mockery of itself. Because how are they going to go on there with a straight face and say, we're not doing this for like a comeuppance? I mean, it's just insane. So I when I read the Coinbase thing, I've always really respected Brian Armstrong's leadership. If you remember, Joe, at the beginning of COVID, right? He was the first person in crypto talking about COVID, besides maybe Balaji Srinivasan, that I ever saw. And he put out his company manual, like, look, here's how we're going to deal with it. And it was the first of any such documents I'd ever seen, right? He's really forward-thinking guy, despite being, in many people's eyes, counter to the point of crypto because he's a centralized exchange. He's the centralized exchange owner. But he's a good leader, right? He's a smart guy, and I think this was the right take, in my opinion. I think it's disingenuous when companies try and come out and take political opinions. I just think they're,
Yeah, well, in crypto, I mean, if they did anything, I would understand they should be lobbying. It's an inherent part of a broken system that our government's powerful enough that you need to lobby. You shouldn't need to lobby. It should be
right.
It's like, look, I'm going to do my business. You guys make your laws. Just stay out of my business. But instead, everybody knows that your competitor is going to go and pay off some senators and congressmen to change rules that are in their favor and not yours, and so you have to be a part of that. And so it makes business radically less efficient. And you talk to what we had to deal with the SEC. And the fact that, yes, there's a lot of lobbying involved in that whole world, and I'm saying this publicly. Oh boy! But that one way or another, that it's very inefficient. It wastes a lot of money, and who benefits? The lawyers. It's all a cooked game.
Yeah.
They're in it for the same reason. The lawyer stokes fear. The lawyer, sends you an invoice. You pay them. Nothing changes, and it's a really interesting system. And what we should be doing in crypto is, first of all, we have to get past all the idiotic maximalism. We have to get past the tribalism. You have to respect and compete. It is a respectful competition between projects. That doesn't mean you have to be tribes. You don't have to go to war. You don't have to send over raiding parties into everybody's Telegram groups and act stupid, right? You don't need to try to manipulate markets around stuff. And traders trade, whatever they do. But the thing that we should be focused on is at its core is the possibility to change law and contract law itself with smart contracts. The fact that it's, who wouldn't want a more efficient system that says, oh, this state happened in history, and therefore I lost. There's no way around it. The smart contract I knew in advance. I agreed to the smart contract, and I did not bet right. And so the other guy won. The contract's there. There's not a judge to go to that could be paid off. There's not a lawyer that will manipulate the facts either way, including the client. none of that's there. All the efficiencies melt away. We have imperfections, and we have a long way to go before that world can happen. But we need to start moving towards it. And there are a couple of projects that are looking at tying the legal and crypto world together with
Aragon, like a decentralized governance, things like that, right? Even some of the things that you guys are working on. I'm with you, and like I said, it's that dialectic. It's a conversation between one pole and another pole. Is the government going to implement Bitcoin in any like broad scale capacity? No, right? But they're going to build something similar, and the USDT, their version, right?
And hopefully the Fed will go away. Hopefully, I mean, it's doubtful, but it's possible. Anything's possible. So, if all that happens, then who knows? Anything could happen.
Right.
And that's when we just have to be ready, and that means technically ready, philosophically ready, politically ready. When these events happen, because right now I just feel like we're kind of just. We're being lazy. I can't believe it's taken so long to do some of the things that are finally happening. And the DeFi world is really interesting in that there's so many things that I wasn't even aware were being built that are out there now. So it's really nice. Anyway, we'll move on. So next up, a record $1 billion worth of Bitcoin was linked to Silk Road, was seized by the U.S. government. So. What do you think, Franklin, about well, first of all, what do you think about Dread Pirate Roberts? What do you think about were there more? Did you follow him in the day? And what do you think about the fact that the U.S. government holds this $1 billion? Are they going to dump it?
Yeah, a couple of points on that. I mean, so look, Dread Pirate Roberts, right? I'm a free Ross proponent, right? I just. And not in the sense that I think he didn't commit a crime. I'm not, naive, right? But I've always been more understanding of drug-related offenses, right? There are very, very strong socioeconomic, economic, and like behavioral antecedents in drug-related behavior. Again, my background is a psychologist. I'm looking at it through that lens, right? A lot of people are born into that lifestyle, right, of selling drugs, and there's no reason that someone should be incarcerated for like trafficking marijuana, for example. We've now seen the kind of much broader scope of tolerance and legalization of consumption of drugs. With Oregon, right, and kind of the most recent, decision to enable even like cocaine use and things like that, which I support, right? I'm a drug legalization proponent. So, on the one hand, ideologically, I don't think he really did that much wrong. But I understand that by the letter of the law, he did. So should he have gone to prison for a little while? Yeah. I mean, inevitably, I think that's the right decision. Should it be 2 life sentences or whatever it was? That's ridiculous. Without chance of parole, really. Should he receive a pardon? Absolutely. As to this specific story, do we know that they've seized, like, the funds, like with the keys and everything? I hadn't seen that
hacker go in and gain access. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, if they have it, they're not going to go market dump it. I don't know. I saw some people tweeting that. I'm like, are you stupid? Like, that's not how these things work. There's the Tim Draper example of him buying up all the other Fed coins, right? So they'll go to an auction, and they'll sell them that way. And someone like Draper will buy most or all of these coins, right? Probably 1 or 2 parties will buy these coins. And they're going to go to strong hands. People who are going to go buy this shit at auction are not going to go dump it on the market. That's not going to happen. So in my opinion, this is not even remotely a bearish event. You may even consider it bullish in the sense that these coins are out of weak hands and into strong hands. I mean, that's a bit of a stretch of a point, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. What do you think about that? What did you? I missed actually what you just said, Orrin, about access to the keys.
Yes, the U.S. government had a hacker enter in so that they could access the money. This makes the U.S. government the top 5th Bitcoin whale in the history of Bitcoin right now. Right. And we agree with Franklin. Does it look like they're going to dump this on the market? No, they're going to have some sort of auction or private sale, which will then just add to the market and make the whales even greater whales and have greater influence on the market. So this is just another day.
That's another day. I'm saying exactly the same thing. I saw the headline. I was like, who cares? You know,
This if you ask me, this should be a reason you think about the upside. If the U.S. government were to say, okay, let's end the Fed and use this as our seed for a crypto fund along with precious metal to back a new dollar, right? It'd
would be a much better
more.
idea,
Yeah,
right? But they're
that
not
won't
going to.
happen.
They're not going to do that.
No, but that's my dream. So next up, sports fans can trade fractional NFTs based upon real life sports stats. So, Orrin, what do you think? What do you think about this? And NFTs in general, and the so far untapped opportunities there.
NFTs are super exciting because you're able to tokenize any asset, whether it be an in-game item, such as what projects like Engine Coin are doing, or whether what people are doing are Rarible, or what Franklin is doing. So this is really just exciting because the wave is going to increase. Right now, we believe the NFT market is a bit saturated because anybody and everybody who has a username and a password is going to log on and list whatever art that they can find. But this is going to be the future of how we see even artist-to-artist interaction. So this is great.
Excellent. Yes, Franklin. What are your thoughts on this? Because sports. I mean, you're dealing with art, but we're talking sports.
Well, we have a partnership with the Sacramento Kings as well. We also have some other things that are coming in there that I can't quite disclose yet. We have also sold artwork from 2 pro baseball players. So we have Block Party as a brand has a very strong overlap with sports. I'm personally very bullish on sports NFTs as an application. You think about the strong collectible nature of sports, right? People who are fans of, like I'm a LeBron James fan. I grew up in Akron, Ohio, same town that he did. I saw him play in high school. I will go buy most whatever LeBron memorabilia, right? And the analogy that I always use for people is if LeBron gets into NFTs and he posts about NFT-based collectibles on his Instagram, he has something like 75 million followers, right? You know how many people are going to be onboarded to crypto that same day? It could be 1 million or more. So when we look at NFTs, what we have here is an incredibly real potential to onboard a shit ton of new users into crypto. So for any naysayers about NFTs, I think you should look beyond your opinion about NFTs as a marketplace within crypto and think about that they will grow the whole pie. They're going to onboard a huge amount of users because the conclusion is this: brands, musicians, artists have already accepted the value proposition of NFTs. I promise you that. There's no question, right? The pitches I give in my day-to-day are the easiest pitches I've ever given in my life. It's like they just talk about how do we do it, not should we do it.
Yeah.
And we're talking about famous individuals here in a lot of cases. And so their value prop's clear. Post-COVID world, their revenue streams have been clipped, their IRL revenue. If I'm a musician and I was touring, and now I'm not touring, right? Yeah. So how do I make up that revenue? Well, maybe I'm like Justin Blau, the DJ we work with, and he goes and does audiovisual NFTs, and he makes 80 grand in less than 2 months, right? Well, there's that touring revenue. It's back again, right? So their value prop is clear. The fans will follow them, and they'll follow them into crypto even if they don't know anything about crypto because they are fans, right? So we have this amazing potential to onboard a huge amount of users. Fractional NFTs specifically, I'm also really, really interested in. Yeah. I think if we're admitting the problem of the NFT market, it's liquidity is really the number one. I think interoperability is number two, right? So we don't have cross-chain bridges that are standardized yet, but fractionalization and liquidity provision and diverse financial products have to be the number one thing that are missing from the market. So fractionalization is where it all starts. Breaking the NFT down into smaller pieces, the anecdote of investing in 1/1,000,000th of the Mona Lisa, right? Incredibly compelling value proposition there, but we need to make it real life. So we're close. Within a year, I think we will probably be there in at least a rudimentary way.
Yep. And we're DEN, they're fractionalized layers, and they're all NFTs. It's the same thing where you'll actually be able to see, okay, ownership of this amount of NFTs for that layer means that I have 1%, which means that I should expect to generate this much matter per day. which all of a sudden makes it a very approachable. I can actually extrapolate what's this worth if I hold this for 6 months, whatever else. It's a really interesting thing that we're excited about, and that can be applied so many places. So
yeah, I mean, think about it, Joe. Like right now, and Orrin kind of touched on this. Anyone can go list any NFT on Rarible. There's a problem there, right? And he's right, the market is saturated because there's not enough filtering. And that's where that word curation that I brought up at the very beginning of the show comes to bear. You're going to see the rise of curated markets. You saw the rise of Rarible, now come the curated markets. The block parties, the super rares, the nifty gateways, the known origins, the maker's place, right? The async, all of those are going to be ascendant because people don't want a flood of content. Now, is there still going to be the need for a free on-ramp? Absolutely. And, I need to also, related to the freedom of the product, not have to buy and sell one whole unit to do anything,
Yeah. Right.
And so those are the two sides of it. It's like, how do you get into the market? Well, you get in through a free open system like Rarible, which is not totally free, but that's subject for another day. And you also have the ability to invest fractionally.
Yep, right on. Okay, so that's all. Those are all the topics. So we're going to close out, and so I'm going to ask Franklin, what, in your opinion, generically, without giving any anything away, nothing that's coming out, what's the biggest untapped use case for
of
NFT?
NFT?
Right.
Yeah. I would say, and this is something we're working on, and it's fairly known now that we're going to be working on it, but the functional bridge between NFTs in the metaverse and in the digital world and real life. That is the most interesting area without question, right? So the idea is, what do I do with my NFTs? I've had many people ask me this, and I want to answer that question in the most compelling way for them with my work. That's my goal at my job. It's not just to sell NFTs. Or market a brand, it's to figure out the best way to answer that question for this industry. So one of the ways is like you put it in a digital frame on your wall. One of the ways is you put it in a VR world, a metaverse, like a crypto voxels or Decentraland or something. One of the ways is you experience it with AR glasses or an AR filter. But another way that is really, really important is I go to a music festival and I own a Blau NFT, and that Blau NFT unlocks VIP backstage, right? That is when this becomes very, very interesting, right? Because you connected the loop. We're kind of like maybe 2/3 of the loop is figured out right now, and you connect it when you add back in that physical, real life component where you've connected the metaverse to the digital to the asset back to real life. So, in my opinion, that's what we need to be focusing on as an industry.
Yeah, and we worked on some things at Disney that were related to that, and it's Ethereum pre-standard NFT, but authenticity and also what else would I want to say, the access and the monetization of virtual assets, right? How do you tie this gaming thing to something that
Disney would be
meaningful?
a great case study, right? Because there's so many park experiences or brand experiences.
That's why Dragonchain is here, right? That's what it was all about. So so Orrin, let's talk about Den. So what do you have planned for your lair? Welcome to the Matrix, right?
Yeah. Right now we're planning to build it. We're going to announce to our fans right after this live on YouTube that they can follow us on Den and use it as a place to speak about cryptocurrencies, future predictions, and also as a fan page for the real Orrin to share unreleased music, where you can attach videos and audio. So we're excited to be able to try that out.
Nice, that's excellent, and we're hoping that you guys come up with some really we know just from what you've told us so far some interesting angles that we will have to try to keep up, and like say the smart contract based bots and things like this. So do please keep in touch and let us know what's what you're looking at to come, so we can maybe build in front of it and give you some extra features, because I mean the whole thing's on chain. But
Everybody
yeah.
uses social media and everybody contributes online, and not very many people are compensated for it. And so it's great that even with this small sample size, we can see that this works, and that people are motivated to post. And so thank you for creating this platform for us, Joe,
Yes.
and Blake, and the entire Dragonchain team.
Yes, it's excellent. Well, so in closing, everybody, thanks for coming on, guys. This was actually a really great set. Loving having both you guys on. Watch Super Happy Dragon Lucky every Tuesday morning. Follow Real Denizens and Dragonchain Gang and Jojo Row on Twitter. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And tomorrow, thank you to all our veterans out there. Tomorrow's Veterans Day, the 11th, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Welcome to the Matrix.
All right, guys, you can stick around for a bit.
Cool.